Have you ever wondered what you're actually supposed to put in your website footer? Like, isn't that something that's the most confusing? Okay, so I legit have a client who I am working on her website, and she's awesome. She is a bookkeeper and we're working on her site, and she brought up a really good question. I don't think she meant to bring this whole thing up, but we're working on her website, and she asked, well, what exactly am I supposed to even put on the footer? What is the purpose of a footer? What am I supposed to put in it? Totally a legit question, especially if you're not a website designer. You're like, what is the use of a footer? It's the end of the page ends. So in today's video, I'm going to answer some of those questions, as well as make sure to give you like a rundown of what you're supposed to be putting into the footer, because it's actually a really useful part of the website. But before we dive in, I need to introduce myself in case you are new. My name is Yasmin Robles. I am the owner of Robles Designs, where we create drill-worthy websites for entrepreneurs who are hell-bent on taking over the world. We actually focus more on the strategy piece, and whenever we're redesigning a website, we don't just throw out the old website and create a new one to make it look pretty, because although it can be pretty, you can still get errors like 404. Well, let's leave the jargon away. You'll get errors on the site. People will go to old links and be like, their website's broken. You just want to make sure that the user experience is great when you're redesigning your site, and we like to do that with data. So we will look at things like a heat map, the traffic, search console, all the keywords, all the jargony stuff. We will do all the jargony, nerdy stuff before we even put any glitter bombing onto your website. And you can follow us on Instagram if you want to see a bunch of awkward videos or me trying to be cool on reels and doing sounds that my daughter thinks are cool as well. You can go to @Robles Design Studio on Instagram and find us there. We are also trying to build up our TikTok page, just like every 30-something-year-old with a business. So go to TikTok and check out Robles Design Studio on there as well. Okay, so a footer is basically something that goes at the very bottom of your site. It appears on almost every single page. The only time it does not appear on your page, on a page, would be a sales page, where I will code it out or just take it out of that page in order for me to keep the attention of the user on that page and have them do exactly what I want them to do. This is the goal of a sales page. Other than that, every page will have a footer. It's just like the navigation, the top navigation, it'll appear on every single page. That's why we have to make sure that it is not too specific, but general enough and gives enough information for the user, because basically it's like a resource hub. It's like the index in a book. You just want to make sure that it guides people to where they want to go. So the way a footer can look is just really dependent on your brand. Ideally, I like cutting a footer into a couple of different sections. So I will have the section A, which typically has that call to action that we will talk about. Section B will have things like the mission statement, a logo, some social media links, maybe, you know, the footer navigation that we'll talk about. It'll have that stuff in there. And the final portion is usually reserved for the copyright, maybe privacy policy, legal stuff that you need to link there, but not necessarily be very prominent. A footer can also be cut into different columns so that not everything is stacked on top of each other. They can actually be next to each other, and usually I do that if there's just way too much going on, and if I stack it all, it's going to be like really, really tall, and I want it to be not so tall and not so overpowering and a bit more organized, so then I will put it into columns. So why is a footer really, really important for a website? It's really the resource. It's like the index of the back of the book. It's what's going to help the user get to where they need to be. And users are basically trained to look into that, to scroll all the way down into the footer for things like an address, a phone number, FAQs, shipping policies, things like that, where it's not necessarily something that they're going to purchase or something that they're going to want to know more about your services. They're basically there with a purpose. They will scroll all the way down and they will see the links to the pages that they want. So for example, if you have a sales page for a course, I don't know if this is a good example, but a sales page for a course, but I already purchased the course. I want to know how to log on. I will likely scroll all the way down. Or if I am going to go to a doctor's appointment, I will go to their website, scroll all the way down and get the address. Hopefully it's clickable and I can just get to the place. Or if I'm looking for a phone number for a restaurant, I don't know why they wouldn't have it towards the top, but if they don't have the restaurant phone number towards the top, I will scroll all the way down to the footer to get that information. So it's really like a hub, like an index of all the important things that you need that are not important enough to be at the top navigation necessarily, depending on the business. It's not necessary for you to have a phone number up there maybe, but it is necessary overall for the business, so you put it into the footer. So now for the rundown of what to put in your footer. The first thing that you want to put, and even if you don't put anything else at all, I want you to put a call to action. And remember that the footer shows up on every single page of your site. Think of it almost as like the last piece of the puzzle, that satisfying time when you put that puzzle piece in there. It's not like it's like the most important piece of the puzzle, but it's very satisfying to just like stick that in there and be done with the puzzle. So the call to action should really be something that you aspire people to click on. And I understand that your page strategy might differ between businesses and if you're e-commerce or not, but essentially, what is your goal for people to do? So if you are, let's say, e-commerce, if you're an e-commerce company, you've strategize your whole homepage, and then people get towards the end, that footer, that final call to action, it could be your newsletter. If you're a service-based entrepreneur and you're not necessarily doing a newsletter, you could also do something like a call to action for your calendar so people can book a call with you. Something to give them something to do, right? Something enticing for them to take that next step with you. Again, it's like that last puzzle piece. You can think of it as the last morsel of your dessert. Whatever it is, it's like the end cap of the site, and you want to give them something specific to do for you. The next thing you want to have is basically a footer navigation. Some people call them quick links, some people call them footer navigation, whatever it is. It's basically linking to all the awesome pages on your site. Not necessarily all of them, but the most important ones. So you might not necessarily want to link to like the general services page. Instead, you might want to link to specific services. So instead of services, it could be like custom website design, VIP website sessions, website course. That could be on mine. If you are maybe an accountant, you could do pages that are monthly services. You can put those in the footer and then link to those particular pages instead of just putting the general services page that is likely already linked at the top navigation. So these, you might really want to think about what pages people want to see. They also don't have to be pages that are already on the top navigation. They can be pages that are designated for the footer. And by designated into the footer, I mean that they are like FAQ pages, legal pages, which we'll talk about in a bit, but legal pages, FAQs, maybe team pages, career pages. So if you're hiring, these pages do not deserve top level, top navigation position, right? They need to go into the footer area. All right, so we quickly touched on legal pages. These can include privacy policy, terms of use, accessibility. I've had a client who had me create a website terms of use. It just really depends on what your lawyers are telling you, so go ask them what you're supposed to be putting on there. But any disclaimers as well. So I did have another client who they're like a medical spa, and so they really needed a disclaimer at the bottom of every single page, just kind of saying like, you know, we're giving advice, we're not your doctor, or blah, blah, blah. So any disclaimers, if you're a personal trainer, you might also need a disclaimer. If you're putting up posts and videos, all that stuff, you'll want a disclaimer on your site to appear on every single page. And so that footer is a great place to put it. You can also link to the disclaimer from the footer. So think about all the legal stuff that you need to have on every page, or at least link to from every page, and put that into the footer. Speaking of legal stuff, you'll want to have a copyright as well. Now, again, I'm not necessarily a lawyer. You'll want to chat with your lawyer about the ins and outs of copywriting and all that stuff. But I like to put the copyright in the footer towards the very bottom of the footer. So speaking to the different sections of the footer, it'll be the bottommost section, likely will be the smallest text that's still readable, but not necessarily out of the whole grand scheme of things. It's not going to be the first thing you see, and it's probably going to be also accompanied with the legal pages that we talked about, because those again are not really important pages, so they don't really deserve to be at the footer navigation area, but they do need to be in the footer somewhere. So generally I will put them down below somewhere with the copyright, and they live together. You'll also want to make sure that you are adding your locations. So whether you have just one location, I would say max 3-4 locations, depending on, again, how you're laying out your footer. You could have a 4-column area in your footer and have 4 locations on there. If you have any more than that, I would suggest actually creating a locations page and then linking to that from the footer. And maybe if you really want, you can have a headquarters page where it'll show you the location of your headquarters if that's important to you. Your contact info is really important. I would say it depends on your business. So if you are local, or if you're working mostly with local people, they might not necessarily be visiting you, but they want to know that you are local, if that is something that is important to your audience. You might also want to put in the email address or phone number, even if it's a general support email phone number, that like info at whatever your domain name is, just so that people can feel like they can contact you. It's a lot about trust. If you've ever been on a website where you have no idea how to even get in contact with the business other than a form on the site, and then they don't even have like photos of themselves, it's really, really awkward. So you want to make sure that you are giving people trust by giving the location and giving the contact info. I did work with a spa before who had multiple locations, so we created that locations page. And I also work with Haven Collectives. I fixed their footer a little bit a while back, and I believe they have both of their locations and their logo on there, so you can easily find out where you're supposed to be meeting people at. So that, just make sure you have your location and your contact info. I also recommend having some kind of mission statement, elevator pitch, something that gives some personality, number one, but also is just some text people can read. You can definitely have like a mission statement, but don't make it boring. I hate saying mission statement or vision statement because people think they have to be really corporate, they have to wear a suit when they write this mission statement, and it's really not true. You can make your mission statement reflect your brand voice, and I would say make it reflect your brand voice. Give a snippet of it, maybe 2 sentences in the footer. Depending again on the layout of the footer, it could be 1 sentence. You can put it underneath a version of your logo, and you can have that on your footer. I like adding these because again, I feel like it adds a little bit of personality. It encompasses what you do, who you do it for, why you do it, and just gives like a behind the curtains feel of what it would be like to work with you. Make sure that you have some kind of branded text, vision statement, mission statement, whatever it is, elevator pitch in the footer with personality, so that you don't seem boring and dull, but the text will help people connect with you. So to wrap up, you'll want to have a call to action. I like doing email capture. If you don't capture people's email, you can do something like a calendar link, or at least get them to the contact page. You'll want a footer navigation. You'll want to make sure you have your legal pages and your copyright in the footer as well. Don't forget to add your locations and your contact info, and to add an elevator pitch or something about you in the footer with a little bit of personality. And that is basically it. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to comment wherever you're watching this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all the cool things, and I will catch you in the next episode.